Hi everyone. In this video, I am going to take you through the SPJIMR application process. Now, SPJIMR has started the application for the PGDM and the PGDM BBM program. Now, for these two programs, the application process is common. So, through the single form, you will be able to apply to both the programs if you wish to. And in today's video, I am going to take you through the entire application process. Now, I'm also going to help you understand whether you should apply or you should not apply, because a lot of students have this question that this is my profile and SPJIMR is known for its profile-based shortlisting system. So, should I be applying or not to SPJIMR? That's a very common question, and hopefully by the end of this video, you will have an answer to that question as well. So, let's get started. Now, first things first, what is the eligibility for the program? So, similar to some of the other tests that are out there, whose application forms you may have already filled, the first thing is you must be somebody who has either completed a bachelor's degree with minimum 50% graduation, or you should be somebody in the final year of graduation. Now, work experience is not mandatory for the program as clearly mentioned, so they also accept freshers. But there is one condition that you have to be aware of, which is the 5-year work ex limit. So, this is something that is mentioned that you need to have work experience which is between 0 to 5 years, that is the total experience that you can have. If you have more than 5 years of experience, you will not be able to apply to this particular or rather these two programs, that is PGDM and PGDM BBM. In addition to that, of course, there is the requirement when it comes to the test score. So, if you look at the test, there are two tests that are accepted, which is CAT and GMAT. For CAT, you need to have sectionals of 75 and then overall 85, that is the minimum eligibility. When it comes to GMAT, there are two things that they have given, which is GMAT and GMAT Focus Edition. The date in which you should have taken the test, that is also mentioned on the website, you will be able to find out. So, 1st Jan 23 to 10th December 2025. And when it comes to Focus Edition, November 23 to December 10th 2025. These are the dates that they have mentioned. You need to have 75 in verbal quant if it is GMAT, overall 85, 75 in each of the sections of the GMAT Focus Edition and 85 overall. Now, if you are an international candidate, you are applying as, let's say, a person of Indian origin and so on and so forth, then the requirement is slightly lower. So, you have 75, 75, 85, instead of that you have 65, 65, 75. That is the change that is there for the international applicants. But I'm guessing most of the students who are applying will fall into the domestic applicant category. Now, a few more things regarding selection process. So, SPJIMR has two phases in which they conduct the selection process. The first is essentially the profile-based shortlisting system, right, wherein you get a call even before CAT result is announced. So, this is completely based on your profile, but you can appear for this interview only if you have met the minimum eligibility that they have set. So, what we saw on the previous screen, which is 75, 75, 75 and 85, you have to meet that, then only you will be able to appear for the interview. And then there is second round of shortlisting that is announced after the CAT result, which is Profile-cum-Score. So, if you look at this, which is the second phase shortlist, that will happen after the CAT result. So, that is why your profile becomes very, very important when it comes to SPJIMR. Now, let's talk about the important dates and then I'll take you through the entire form. So, the application has started. It started on the 16th September and it will continue till 28th November. So, this is going to be before CAT is conducted. Keep that in mind. You have to make a decision even before you have appeared for the CAT whether you want to apply for SPJIMR or not. So, this is how the main page looks. So, if you go to the, I will also share a link in the description so you can start from there. And once you click on it, you have to fill in the basic information. So, we start with your first name, last name, you have to enter your email address, you have to enter mobile number, any password of your choice, state, city, CAPTCHA and register. With this, you will create your account. Now, this will apply to students who are applying to SPJIMR for the very first time, but there could be students who, let's say, had applied last year or the year prior. In that case, if they have clearly mentioned that if you have registered with SPJIMR in the past, you have to log in using the same email address and mobile number. Now, it may happen that you have forgotten it, obviously. In that case, you can click on forgot password, retrieve it and then continue the application process. It may also happen that your mobile number is already registered, but you are trying to use a different email address. In that case, it will not work because they are saying that you are attempting a fresh registration with a new email ID. Also use an alternative number, which means that you will have to use a different mobile number and a different email address to create your account in that particular case. Most of the students would be applying for the very first time, so you just need to follow this process and you're done. You will be creating your account, and once you have created your account, this is how your dashboard will appear. So here it will show you PGDM and PGDM BM 2628, and that is where you have to begin your application process. So you click on apply now and then start. Now the video is obviously going to be very long, the form is also long, that's the main reason, and I'll also cover as to how do you answer some of the questions that they've asked, especially the ones where you have to write things, right? So there are a lot of questions that are direct, just factual information that you are sharing, which is your academic record and work experience and things like that. But there are questions where you have to write descriptive answers, and I'm going to help you understand how do you go about that as well. So there are multiple sections in the entire form, and I'll be taking you through all of it. First things first, what is the total fees that you'll have to pay for your application? So they have mentioned that if you're applying to, let's say, a singular program, for example, you're applying to PGDM or PGDM BM, in that case it is going to be 2,000 rupees. But if you decide to apply to both, and that would definitely be our recommendation that you apply to both the programs, because there's hardly any difference when it comes to how the overall conduct happens. They have clearly given what is the distinction between PGDM and the PGDM BM program. But you should definitely apply to both the programs, and if you apply to both, you basically have to pay 3,000 rupees, right? So instead of 2,000 plus 2,000, you have to pay only 3,000 if you are applying to both the programs, okay? So make sure that you take both, and you have to give preference. I'll show you how that looks, okay? So go through the instructions that are given. I'm not going to walk you through every single point that is mentioned. I would expect all of you to read it out, and then only, of course, you continue with the rest of the form, okay? Alright, so this is the first thing, which is program details, right? So you begin with the program details section. Here, the first thing that they have given is what is the distinction between the PGDM and the PGDM program, right? PGDM BM program, sorry. Now, PGDM is something that has a specialization element to it, right? So if you see this, it is for candidates who are freshers with less than 5 years, etc. PGDM has a specialization focus, while the BM program offers candidates flexibility to pursue general management courses in depth with an option to choose a minor specialization and elective of their interest. So this is something that they capture. So in the form, they will capture, okay, what is the relevant information that they need when it comes to both PGDM and BM programs. So here they have given the eligibility. As you will see, there's one more distinction that you have to remember, because that is important. When it comes to PGDM program, there are two eligibility documents. There's one for Indian applicant, there's one for international applicant. But when it comes to the BM program, there's only domestic candidate eligibility, right? So the international applications are not accepted for the PGDM BM program if you go through the document. So the main distinction is what I've kept here. So PGDM, you can see choose specialization from finance, the information management area, marketing, ops and SCM. And for PGDM BM, it is general management only, okay? When it comes to the intake, right, so it is 240 plus 36, which is the maximum. So they can go up to 276 as the batch size. These 36 are OCI, PIO, foreign and Gulf, right? So international applications. But here for PGDM BM, it is only domestic candidates, which is 120, okay? Alright, so now let's move on to the details of that. So choose the program you wish to apply for. Okay, now as I mentioned here, you should apply for both the programs, PGDM as well as BM. So you select PGDM, PGDM BM, then you have to enter preference. Now preference, of course, ideally should be PGDM because of the specialization component, and the fact that PGDM is the program that has been the flagship program of SPJIMR. However, there's no difference between PGDM and PGDM BM apart from the things that we saw. So the structure of the program is different. The placement outcomes are the same, okay? Because PGDM has been the old program or the flagship program, you put that as your first preference, PGDM BM becomes your second preference, okay? So you put that. They also given details in terms of what you will study, right? So information management and analytics. So who is it for, what will be the content of the course and all of that. All of those details have been mentioned here. You can go through that. Now, the next thing that you'll have to do is you'll also have to choose specialization 1 and 2 for your PGDM. Okay, so you'll have to enter which specialization you want to opt for. The moment you select that, so here just for example, I've given finance as the first specialization and the IM and analytics as the second. The moment I do that, they will ask you this as to what is the reason behind your application, right? So why are you choosing finance? You may have graduation in related area, you may have relevant work experience, you may have specialized courses that you have done in the chosen area or special interest. Now let's say I choose only special interest. I don't have any background in finance and I have chosen finance. In that case, I'll have to mention, and there is a word limit of 50, as to why I'm interested in finance. Okay, so you can write whatever is your reason. But the moment I have something else, let's say I take relevant work experience, they are not going to ask me why the interest part, right? Though I have also given special interest in the area, because it's understood that if you have work experience, there's also some interest, otherwise you would not be doing it. So there is no follow-up question here, but if you do only special interest, they are going to ask you why you are making that application, okay? Then comes the next part. For PGDM BM program, based on your academic background, work ex and career aspirations, which focus area you are most interested in. The same 4 focus areas appear here as well under drop down, and the moment you select one of those areas, let's say information management, it will ask you please provide reasons. So you have to write down as to what is the reason behind your application for that particular chosen interest area, okay? So it's not very complicated, you just have to write down why you want to do a particular specialization. Then comes the personal information. Now this is this part, and there are some subsequent parts that are very easy because it's just your factual information. And considering you must have applied for CAT or for some other exams as well where you have filled this form, it will not be very difficult for you. So lot of pointers, I'm not again going to walk you through the whole thing, but you, in case you have any concerns, you can always reach out to an email ID that they have given that, okay, this is my question, they can definitely help you out, okay? So reach out to them if you have any specific query. What is also mentioned is that you need to have a passport or an Aadhaar, right? If you don't have any of them, you will not be able to make an application. So also keep that in mind. Alright, so now let's start from the first thing. So first name, middle name, last name is something that you have to enter. First name, last name will get populated from, rather auto-populated from the time you created your account. So that details, those details will get captured here. You have to write your gender, then date of birth, age, so age will get auto-calculated, nationality, category. Now here they have mentioned that category is something that they don't use for any sort of shortlisting, right? It is just for their data perspective, they want to understand the audience better, but category has no role to play in terms of your selection. Do you have Aadhaar card? Yes. If yes, you have to enter the Aadhaar card number. If you have a passport, you have to enter the passport number. If you say no to both, it will say that you can't proceed, okay? Then you have to upload your passport size photograph, ideally taken in the last 6 months. So I'm sure for CAT you had it, so you can also upload the same photo. When it comes to contact details, your mobile number again gets auto-populated, and also your primary email. You will have to add your parents' mobile number and an alternate email address. Regarding correspondence, you can enter country, state, district, city, pretty straightforward stuff. You fill these details. Is permanent address same as correspondence? You can select yes if it is, and otherwise you can enter a separate address as well. Now with respect to the academic details, so this is where clearly they have given what is the process to be followed. So for both 10th and 12th, right, you have to use all your, rather you have to take all the subjects into account that appear on your mark sheet. So they have clearly mentioned that all subject scores marks mentioned on the mark sheet should be considered. This is irrespective of whether the university or board takes into account consideration or not while counting the final percentage. So you have to take all the subjects that appear the way it is for your CAT form. Okay, so same thing to be followed. Now when it comes to graduation, they have given one very important thing, and even for 12th it is applicable, that you have to use the conversion that your institute provides, right? So it says that if the institute provides grades or CGPA, a conversion is mandatory. If no conversion factor is available, then a percentage needs to be calculated by multiplying the obtained CGPA by maximum CGPA, which is the standard CAT practice as well, with the conversion factor. The conversion certificate needs to be furnished during the verification process. So if you're using any conversion formula, right, that conversion certificate has to be given. So there has to be like a documented proof of that particular conversion formula. You need to submit that. Now if there is no conversion factor, then a certificate from the institute university stating that there is again no formula, right? So if your CGPA in your college, the college says that there is no conversion, the college has to give a document or some proof which says that there is no conversion, right? So that is something that you'll have to give to SPJIMR, okay? Now this again they have mentioned that all the verification and everything will be done, which is like a standard practice at all the B schools. Okay. Now regarding academic details, we'll start from the 10th. So again the data that I've entered is just for sample, so don't take it very seriously. I've just written a few things here. For example, ABC as the institute name, you can just ignore that, but you have to enter your exam ID, month and year of passing, marking scheme whether it is CGPA or marks. So if you select CGPA, maximum, obtained, and then conversion factor. For example, here I've entered 9.5 and it auto calculated 95%. So it did 10 out of 10 and then 9.5 and then 95 is the calculation. Now if you have entered marks, so if you select marks here, you can enter maximum marks, obtained marks, and the percentage will get auto calculated. Okay. So there are only two systems, marks or CGP. Similar is for 12th, so not going to walk you through the whole thing, but here you can have 12th, diploma or both as well, because there are students who have done both 12th and diploma, and SPJIMR is giving you a chance to enter both the information if you have it. So whatever is applicable, you can select that. So if you select both the way I have, it is asking very similar questions, right? But here for diploma, it will ask you university, institute name, the name of the diploma, marking scheme, and the rest of thing is exactly the same. So very straightforward, but of course you need to have that conversion with you if you are filling the form. So make sure that you keep it ready. Alright, then comes the graduation part. Now in graduation, again you start from the state, the university, institute name, then the institute city, the mode of study, right? So whatever is the mode of study that is applicable, the name of the degree, the specialization, and there are a lot of drop downs available. You can choose whichever is the best representation. There is others as well, so you can select that if you don't find something that is applicable to you. The degree type, pattern of examination, and the UG result status. So there are three, I think, there, which is appeared for but not received, then received, and then appearing for, right? So something like that is available. You can choose whatever is applicable to you. Alright, now comes to graduation details. So very similar to 10th and 12th in terms of how they are asking it. So maximum marks, obtained marks, what is the marking scheme, marks or CGPA, then conversion factor, and then graduation percentage. So here you will have to again use whatever is the conversion factor, right? And the last column there, graduation percentage, it will accept numbers only. So you can't write anything that is text in it, okay? But you need to have some sort of a formula to convert. If you don't have a formula, you can use the method that they have shown. Now, they will also ask you what is the pattern, right? So whether it is semester wise or year wise. The moment you say semester wise, it will ask you details of the individual semesters. So for each of the semesters, you have to write what is the maximum CGPA and your obtained CGPA or marks, whatever be the case, for each of the semesters. Okay, so here, for example, you can see up to 10 semester, till 6 semester is mandatory because I had chosen a 3-year degree program. Okay. Alright, then comes the next section, which is on academic break. So if you have any sort of academic break, you can mention it. The break could be, let's say, after 12th, after first year, after second year, after third year, etc. They have given it under drop down. You can select it, and if it is applicable, you will have to give the reason for the academic break. Okay. Alright, then comes the next section, which is post-graduation. So if you have any post-graduation, you can always enter it. The questions are more or less similar as your graduation details. So if you don't have it, you can simply say no and then move on. Then PG University, state, city, degree, stream, mode of study, status, very similar to graduation, nothing major there that needs explanation. You can enter the marks obtained, etc. and then proceed. Now, professional qualification is the next part, where the first question is, do you have any professional qualification? If you say yes, the drop down says CA, CS, CFA, ICWA and other. So you may have some other professional qualification which you may want to enter here if it is applicable. Then professional qualification, what's the level? So I chose CFA. Now it is asking me level 1, 2 or 3 and then name of the institute, which is again a drop down. Then qualification status, so pursuing or completed, right? So they have mentioned, please select qualification status as completed only if you have cleared all exams or levels required for the qualification. So if I have completed all levels of CFA, then I will say completed. Otherwise, I'll have to say pursuing, right? Then level achieved, what's the level that I've completed? The rank that is achieved if it is applicable, year of commencement and year of passing. Okay, so this section again is applicable to you only if you have a professional qualification. Otherwise, when you say no, they are not going to ask you any follow-up questions. Then don't worry if you don't have any professional qualification, because some students may think that I don't have anything. So is that a big concern? Not really, because they are also asking you if you have any other important certification. For example, you may have pursued, let's say, an additional course or a certificate that you have. So there's a proof of having completed some sort of thing. For example, you may have done a few courses on, let's say, Coursera or something else, like an Indian body. As long as you have a proof that you have completed something, you can mention it there. It can be entered as bullet points as well, right? So don't worry. The next section, which is again very crucial, is the work experience component. So in work experience, the first question is, do you have work ex? They've also given guidelines in terms of what will be considered as work ex. So it has to be, as they have mentioned, relevant work ex after graduation. So anything that you have done which is a mandatory requirement of your program, it could be an articleship or let's say an internship and things like that, that is not supposed to be considered as work experience. Okay. Now you start with name of organization, and this will be your latest job. Now whether you're currently employed or not, that doesn't matter, but this will be the last job that you had or the current job that you have. So you start here, name of organization, the industry, the function. So I've just given some examples. In the drop downs you have a lot of options, so you can just choose whatever is relevant. Then employment type, so salaried employee. Then the options are family managed business, sole proprietor, and partnerships, because a lot of students may have family business experience as well. In that case, you can select the appropriate thing. Okay. Then designation, whatever is your designation, and whether this is your current job or not. So you'll say, for example, if you are working, you will say yes. The next question is gross annual CTC, and they have mentioned that don't write it as 7.1 lakh, etc. You have to write it in full numbers, so 710,000, right? Start date, if it is a job that you had in the past, it will also ask you end date, because if you say no here, it will ask you for end date. But if you choose yes, then it is not going to ask you that. And then describe your role briefly. So here a lot of students have a question that what exactly do I write? So basically you write your job description, but make sure that you write it in a very short manner, because you have maximum word limit of 50 words, right? So you have to cover whatever you do. It can be entered as 2 or 3 bullet points if you want that, or it can be a paragraph, right? But use action verbs as much as possible while you're writing your job description. Now, if you have more work experience, you can always add it. Let's say you worked with 2 or 3 companies, you can add work experience. So I need to click there, which is add more work experience. And here I can select previous work ex details. So I select the name of the organization, industry, employment type, designation, and so on and so forth. Total experience is what will get auto calculated once I have the start date and the end date, and then employment type. Now what you will see happening is, so I had deliberately, what I did was I put work experience which was more than 5 years, which was in fact 77. The moment I entered that, or rather it is getting auto calculated, it just gave that message that only candidates who are freshers or have less than 5 years of work experience can apply. And this is something that I mentioned in the beginning, that if you have more than 5 years of experience, you cannot apply to these programs. Okay. Now they are mentioned for queries, please contact. So if you have a concern with that okay, I have more than 5 years of experience, then what do I do? You can just reach out to SPJIMR in that case. Okay. Now if, so again, describe your role briefly for that second experience. Months of work experience beyond above, if any. So if you still have more experiences, you can mention it here. Now we come to sections that start to get more complicated, right? Because now we have to talk a little bit more about the achievements that you have had. Okay, so the achievement section has 2 parts to it. The first part is academic achievements. Now academic achievements are, you can enter maximum of 3. I suggest that you enter all 3. Now some of you may say that I don't have 3 achievements. See, achievements, the way I see it, right, is a very individual thing. So something that I consider as an achievement may not be achievement for somebody else. So maybe let's say if I say that I topped my school, some people will say, oh, that's not really a great achievement. A lot of people do that, right? It's very commonplace and so on. But for me, that is a significant achievement. So whatever you think is your academic achievement, you can mention that. So I'm going to give you a sample as well of one of the past students as to how that student had entered the information. So here they ask you title of the award, first of all, who gave you the award, the institute or the body, year in which you got it, the award positions of first, second, third, etc. What's the level? So international, national, state, university, etc. And then finally you have to describe the award. So the award description has to be very short, right? If you look at it, it's just 200 characters. So make sure that you use your words carefully while you're entering this. Okay, so I'm just going to share a sample of the submission of a past student. And by the way, the student had converted SPJIMR. Okay, so of course there are a lot of things that go into it. Form is just one of the things, but what you have on the form, right, will eventually decide whether you get shortlisted or not. So here, for example, as you can see, the student has entered some certificate of merit, third college, and then secured third rank. So I've hidden some information just to for the sake of the privacy of the person. But if you look at the things, so mentioned secured third rank in TYBCom exam, there was some description that I've removed. Then distinction, ICAI is the body granting it, then level is national. Cleared CN first attempt, secured exemption in 4 out of 8 subjects in finals and 5 out of 7 in inter, right? So usage of numbers while writing, that's always a good thing to do. And then third is subject topper. So topped a particular subject in college. So first, received monetary award for securing highest marks in foundation course in FIBCom, right? So this is just representative, right? This is just example. You don't have to copy anything from this. Write your own achievements, right? So figure out what are your academic achievements, write description. Take your time, don't be in a hurry to submit your form, right? Make sure that you show it to your mentors. Those of your IMS students definitely will find a lot of support from all your mentors, okay? All right, now the next thing is versatility. So this is again an area where a lot of students struggle because they think that I do something, but is it really worthy of mentioning, right? So don't be super critical is my recommendation. Whatever you think brings out an aspect of personality that shows you that, okay, you are somebody who is a well-rounded individual, I think you should mention it. But yes, definitely talk to your mentors and get help from them in shortlisting, which are the 5 things that you should be mentioning. Now here you start with name of the activity, the interest, proficiency, award, level, and then description. Okay, so there are drop downs here, so nothing too complicated there, but the description is the key, right? So you have to be very careful there. Overall versatility rating is what you'll have to do once you have filled all of this, and the ratings are outstanding, very good, good, and average. Now if you have a lot of, say, national, international things, right, I would call it outstanding, right? But if you have things that are, let's say, at the college level, school level, and things like that, I can always put it as very good. So again, don't be super critical and write average. You don't have to call yourself average. Always write either good, very good, or outstanding, depending on what sort of things you have, or rather what is the level of your achievements. Now how to write this? So as you can see, this student has written different things. So starting from social work, so interest high, proficiency intermediate, award, etc. Because see, in some cases awards don't apply, right? Let's say you have volunteered with an NGO, there's no award that you're getting for it, so award is not applicable. But at what level? Maybe I've done it at the, say, at the state level. So actively involved in women empowerment projects and so on and so forth. Then there is singing, which is a hobby, but secured first position in various intra-school competitions, right? So that's the description. Martial arts, completed first 3 levels in martial arts, right? But of course that could have been expanded a little bit. Fourth, event organizing, actively engaged in organizing offsite for office employees and receiving recognition for the same, right? Reading, so hobby. So it's not necessary that you are writing about something wherein you have won a particular award itself, right? It could be especially for students who do not have a lot of achievements. You can always mention hobbies and how they help you. For example, reading, intermediate level, I enjoy reading as it translates me, and so on and so forth, right? So you can always write something. So rather than leaving a section blank, make sure that you write something. What to write? Get help from your mentors, but the first thing is going to be you drafting your own form. Write your answers, then take help from somebody. So you should ideally come up with, let's say, 6 or 7 things, or maybe 8 things that you're going to write, and then shortlist which are the 5 things that you will finally put down on the form. Okay. All right. So now we are sort of entering towards the last phase of the entire form. Then you also have a section called responsibility shouldered. So this is again something where students struggle because they ask, okay, what exactly is personal and what is professional? So there are two things that you have to mention. Firstly, level, whether it is high, medium or low, and you have to describe what sort of responsibility you have shouldered. Again, I'm just going to give you example from the student as to how this can be written. So if you think of this responsibility, personal, level is high, and what was the thing that was done? I helped mate's daughter to study for her exams, right? And of course, the student got good score from, let's say, average scores, and that sort of was the achievement, correct? Professionally, I was in charge of some sort of work about a listed company, and it was a first time engagement. A lot of processes were to be streamlined. Even without a manager, we successfully completed the assignment, received appreciation, and so on and so forth, right? So anything where you have taken up responsibility, it has again personal context and professional context. So what is personal is anything that is not professional, right? I mean, that's a very simplistic definition of what personal context is, but it could be, let's say, helping somebody like this, or it could be let's say starting up a club in college. It could be let's say creating some sort of community awareness in your locality and things like that. So it could be anything, right? So come up with different stories, and sure you will find two things that are worth sharing. Then finally, how did you discover SPJIMR? Of course, you can talk about IMS in that case, you can mention coaching center. But then whatever is applicable, you can select that. This is not going to have any impact on your final selection. Are you interested in knowing about other SPJIMR programs? If you're interested, you can submit, otherwise you can skip it. Now, regarding instructions, final instructions, when it comes to the your test score. So at this point of time, while you're filling the form, of course, you're not going to have your CAT result, right? So they have mentioned as to what you need to do. You can submit the form even without your CAT score, which is clearly possible. You just need to have your application number, right? So they have given what needs to be entered there. For GMAT, if you have your score, then how it needs to be submitted, the details are available here, you can go through it. So in competitive exam details, I've chosen both CAT and GMAT, and you can always do that. CAT result, I've selected awaited. GMAT, it says I've chosen declared, okay. Now if I go with this selection, let me show you what all things you have to enter. So starting from CAT registration number, so you'll have to enter your CAT registration number. Then if your primary email ID is same as your CAT exam application ID. So when you registered for CAT, the email ID that you had used, ideally you should use the same email ID for SPJIMR registration as well. But in case you are not using that, you can select no, okay. Now once you have your result, you will be able to come back to this form and edit this information, which is something that they had mentioned in the instruction as well. So you mention your score, percentile overall, sectional for VRC, DLR and QA. If you have taken GMAT, the dates are given, GMAT ID, appointment number, test date, GMAT score, issue date, etc. Followed by the overall score, percentile, quant score percentile, verbal score percentile. Now if I have my scorecard, I can upload the scorecard. So it says GMAT scorecard, you can upload a file, maximum limit of 2 MB, okay. Finally, declaration. So you have more or less completed the entire form. It will ask you to go through the form before you submit, and you will see your applicant name and the date on which you are submitting the form, and then the amount that you need to pay. So here it is showing me 3,000 because I have chosen both the programs, and of course, as I recommended earlier as well, go with that, right? So don't choose only PGDM or PGDM BM. Make sure that you apply to both the programs that are there and pay 3,000 rupees. Now the real question that you may have at this point of time is, should I apply? So first things first, when you look at the IMS students, and of course that's what we can talk about, we have analyzed the entire profile of all the students who have converted SPJIMR in the past. And what we found was, most of the students have percentile which is in the higher bracket, generally 93, 94 plus. But there have been exceptions. So we have had cases of students converting SPJIMR at 87 as well. And this can happen if you have a great profile, right? So somebody with 87 percentile has also converted SP, but then your profile has to stand out, right? Secondly, these students had profiles which were 90, 80, 80 and above. So 10th 90 plus, 12th and graduation also 80 plus. That can be considered as a good profile. So if you have a profile which is better than this, right? It could be, let's say, a 90, 90, 90 or whatever, a 95, 95, 95. As long as it is better than this, you have a shot. Okay, so your class 10, 12 graduation marks should be more than these ideally. But I am not saying that if it is less than this, you don't apply. What I'm saying is you'll have to evaluate whether you should apply or not, basis a lot of other things. One thing that was common is all of them had something extra to talk about, right? So if you looked at their profiles, they may have, let's say, something like dance achievements, social work, some patents, a strong tag, right? It could be an IIT, NIT, ICAI and things like that. Positions of responsibility in your college, right? Committee head, club member, things like that, and done at the higher level. Top X% of the batch ranking, so top 5% of the batch, top 10% of the batch, and so on. Any sort of medals, gold, silver, bronze, sports achievements, right? So a lot of them had something extra to talk about. It's not that just because you have grade 10, 12th and graduation, you will get a shortlist, right? Because a lot of students have that. But then when you have something extra, that is what SPJIMR is looking for. Okay, so there has to be a spike, something that is very unique, something that you bring to the table, which makes the batch better. Okay, so I would say evaluate your overall profile and then decide. Do not take decisions on the basis of your existing or your current CAT scores, because that is not the sole decision-making parameter, right? Your CAT score is just one thing in the entire equation. Your overall profile matters a lot. So with this, we have completed the entire application form. I hope the video has helped you and given you a complete overview. But if you have any questions regarding SPJIMR or the programs, the PGDM and the PGDM BM, or these questions that we spoke about when it comes to the versatility or academic achievements or the responsibility shouldered, etc. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know via the comment section. Now for IMS students, we will of course be doing a separate session for all the enrolled students, talking more about SPJIMR at a later point of time. The details will reach IMS students through the Telegram group. So stay tuned for that. We are going to uncover or sort of help you understand how to write application in a better manner. But we'll do that at a later point of time. But for now, you should start thinking about applying to SPJIMR, get the documents in place, start writing your answers, and reach out to your mentors for any help that you need. So thank you so much for joining. I hope it has helped you and wish all of you all the best. Bye. Take care.